is dropped on a Friday. It's a Freestyle Friday here at Soccer Down Here. John here, you there. We're going to get you ready for the weekend in Major League Soccer, go through the news of the morning, bad news for Paul Pogba. We'll get into that in the gap time. 10 o'clock weekend whip-around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later, and that will lay everything out for the upcoming weekend in Major League Soccer. So you can sit there and continue to vent your spleens about what happened in the midweek. You don't want to get beat by Philly twice if you're Atlanta United. So we'll get into that in hour number 2. But batting leadoff, and I'm going to do it this way. So opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, and I'm going to try and cover up the QR code for hour number 2 right there. Opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Thanks to everybody who has kicked off their day. See what I did there? With our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15. They, in turn, take 10% and reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. See, I put my hand there so you don't have 2 QR codes going to your phone at 1 hour. All right, so there you go. Opening kickoff. For that, we go to Statesboro. Catch up with our friend Darin van Tassell. Very, very big weekend. Couple weeks left in the regular season in USL League One, and you guys are coming out of Lane 8 trying to get into the playoffs. I mean, you are storming the gates these last couple of weeks. What is going on down there in Statesboro? Good morning.
We are hardwired for late charges. We discovered the magic formula last year, and we're feeling good right now. We're playing our best. We're playing some of our best soccer of the season, and we've had 3 straight weeks where we really had some must wins. I think we have 2 more weekends. So the playoffs came early for Tormenta in 2023.
Well, but I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing because you're sitting there and you're going, okay, you're getting playoff ready. Must win, getting yourself ready for that. 2 points out of a playoff spot. Everybody's played 30 matches except for Charlotte, who's played 31. And Central Valley, who's eliminated from the playoffs at 31. But, yeah, you've already gotten adjusted to that idea of the must-win situation to get into the postseason to chase after going back-to-back.
This is fun. The playoffs are just so much fun. That's what I love about October. I'm also a baseball guy, so we got the Braves Phillies coming up.
Yeah.
We'll probably put them on the big screen in pregame for our Tormenta Omaha matchup today. Listen, it's fun when you're finding some success, and as our organization ages, I think when you're first starting out, you have less of an understanding of what makes you good, whether you're a professional player, coach, or in the ownership. And I think we have a better understanding of how to build, how to manage that hot summer here, and as we're coming down the stretch, the guys are playing well. That's fun, but we're also doing a better job, I think, in the front office. We're doing a better job with our fans, and I think our fans are we're expecting a big crowd for Saturday, so let's go do it.
And, what has it been like there at the stadium? Because for those that follow on social media, you're seeing more cement being, planted as a part of the process. The stadium is continuing to grow. What's that been like for folks who haven't had the chance to see?
Yeah, we have absolutely had cement tourists this week who've pulled in to do nothing but take pictures of pouring concourses. Listen, this is a big project we have. It doesn't move as fast as I'd like to, and but we've got some concourses done, and then when the season ends, hopefully in a month, not in a week.
There you
go. We've got quite a big push here in the off season. So, what a dream it's going to be to see it all done. But until then, we've got an amazing pitch in the middle of an amazing construction site. The area that surrounds us, John, the retail commercial area, is probably where most of the growth has gone in this past year. So we have a Chick-fil-A under construction. Starbucks is about to finish itself. And Blaze Pizza, LeBron James owns that company at the top. Will be moving in. So as we've been filling out the retail piece of the stadium, the sidewalks and concourses are coming together too. A lot of work to do. It's just going to be fun to follow. Keep following us on all the social media.
And at the same time, the live, work, play element has been, I think, key to the growth of a lot of the markets in USL League One, where you're seeing with you and with the Martinos up in Chattanooga, up at CHI Memorial, where it's not just a stadium that will sit once the season is dormant, whenever that is. You want to have other events there. You want to have other things going on. So it's a continual drawing card for the organization as you're continuing to grow.
I think the Braves really showed us all the formula very early on with Battery Atlanta. We've taken the same concept, built it around the stadium, that stadium-centric entertainment, retail, live, work, eat, play, residential district. That's what we have. We've built the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is still a lot more to come. But it's the fuel. It's the fuel that keeps the whole place. It makes it fun. Smaller areas don't mean we're less sophisticated. And so I think the Braves model at Battery Atlanta is a great one for I think, facilities around the planet to follow.
Yeah, and at the same time, you can add learn to that, specifically where you're concerned, considering you're just across the parkway from Georgia Southern. And so you're integrating there into a community that has meant a lot to you over a very long period of time.
Yeah, that location makes it really fun and exciting for us. I was at that Georgia Southern women's NCAA game last night. They won. We have 5 of our Tormenta women who play for Georgia Southern at various times, and one of our national championship alums got the game winner late. So it was a good night for Tormenta Nation.
What's it like to see Tormenta expand the way that it is? And I'm not just talking about League One, and I'm not just talking about physical plant and infrastructure. It's where you're rubbing off on Georgia Southern soccer. You're rubbing off on the community and doing so in a high school sense. You're having players from USLW that are now going worldwide to expand what they've done there in Statesboro. What's it been like for you there to see Tormenta, whether it's League One, A, W, whatever we're talking about, being there internationally now?
It's something between proud parents and big fans of it all. And we all want nice things to happen to our hometowns. So I think that's a big piece of it. Listen, there are so many things outside of our control in terms of what we can do. And so I think our mantra has always been, let's focus on those controllables, which is our attitude, our efforts, and how we're going to treat others. And if you've played it at Tormenta, how we want to be treated and keep following those successes are great. It's fun. This is the fun part.
And you mentioned the fun part, USL League One continuing to expand, add markets, anticipation. The Western Frontier recently got another nod where USL Antelope Valley, for those that might remember their minor league baseball, the Lancaster Jethawks, that facility for them is now going to be converted over the next handful of years to a 5,300-seat soccer stadium. We've seen that kind of conversion work in Huntsville. Antelope Valley coming online yesterday, I want to say for 2025.
Right.
And so you're getting those regional rivalries that you were talking about from the beginning when USL League One was getting formed, that you want those hubs that you can sit there and attach yourself to when it comes to rivalries, so you're not having to try to figure out all the time, okay, how do I get from Statesboro to Central Valley? Because last time I checked, unless it's like wheels up, there's no direct way to get from Statesboro to Fresno to play a match. And now you're starting to get those regional hubs lined up.
I thought the LA Times had a good story on Antelope Valley in Tuesday or Wednesday's edition. They've got a lot of support. I think there's a great soccer community there. I think it's at it's northern LA, and the mayor and the elected officials there have really gotten behind what I think the identity is going to be. When we're at our best, that's what League One gets to do. And we get Brooklyn in 2025. We get Spokane next year. We get Portland, Maine in 2025. And I think there's another one in 2025 that hasn't been announced yet that at least the owners know about. So this is the growth we've been waiting. COVID sort of smack dab in the middle of it and postpones so many of these things from us. But having a national league that is going to get big enough where you can divide up into regions and maybe impact some of the travel that way. Even the Atlanta Braves don't want to go to play the Dodgers and San Francisco Giants every week. But once a year would be fine. But it's getting solidified, and this run up to the World Cup is real, and the USL, I think, is a great organization to manifest it.
Darin van Tassell hanging out with us from South Georgia Tormenta. Home regular season finale coming up this weekend. Big match, must win. You need full points. You're 2 points out of the playoff race. Hanging out with us here, batting leadoff for the baseball guy here on SDH on a Friday. I know a lot of folks ask, and it's been a part of the discussion with USL, the whole idea of promotion relegation. And you've got to have a lot of moving parts. You've got to have owners on the championship side who would understand the perils and the pitfalls of possibly being relegated. I mean, it would be a situation this year, if you were looking at it, it'd be like Vegas and Hartford, who did not have good seasons in USL Championship. They would have to understand going in, hey, this may happen. What's the latest there? What's been the conversations about that inside USL?
Well, it is one giant active conversation. We're all over the place as owners. I think we all have similar goals. Mm-hmm. I think some of us have different time frames that we'd like to do. Some of us want all the information before we can make a decision. Some of us need a little bit of information and want to figure out as we go. I think they're all reasonable positions to have from an ownership standpoint. But the conversation is active. It is real. Clearly, we can't do anything if we don't have not just the majority, but the bulk of our owners in the USL to do some things. And I think when you're making big decisions and that involve big moments, there has to be a lot of details, a lot of information. There's always compromise. That's what governing is about. And so we've been going down that path trying to get that work done. We've met a lot face to face. And I think as we grow with that familiarity, we'll get better and better at it. There are no specific answers in terms of what that timeline is. There was a lot of public reports about where we wanted to get that done in Colorado Springs back in the late summer times. We'll see. Some folks clearly need a bit more time to make those decisions. Meanwhile, as a league in League One, we're going to experiment with some of our own ideas and things that we can do in the interim and keep pushing our league to where we want to be. And I think there's going to be some fun announcements that we'll be able to share here in the next few months.
I was going to say, if you ever want to break news, where you can.
I always only break news here.
When it comes to League One specifically, the level of competition, I think it's been really fun to see how a younger team like Northern Colorado with Eamon Zayed on the touchline, they've really become competitive. North Carolina, Union Omaha, you could throw a blanket over those three going into the final two matches of the season. Then there's that second group with Charlotte and Greenville and Madison and One Knox was competitive out of the blocks this season, and they've kind of come back to earth. Lex SC, I think, has acquitted themselves pretty well this year. Chattanooga, I think Richmond is probably one of the big surprises, one of those perennial playoff powers. Say that 10 times fast. Right now, they're having a rough season. They've lost 4 in a row. What would you, when you look at the league in and of itself this season and the level of competition as League One continues to grow, how would you say what has been happening in the league this year?
Everybody got better. Everybody got better than they were last year. Richmond's is a great example in which their record didn't turn out, but they didn't have Terzaghi down the stretch the last couple months, and they're a different club without him. We'd be a different club without Keziah Sterling on our end. But everybody got better. I mean, even Wednesday night, Fuego had the early lead against Greenville and gave it up late. Every team is so good. They're filled with players. There's so many outstanding soccer football players around the planet, and League One here in the United States gives them such a platform. There's so many people, even on the benches to pull from. The Northern Colorado and NCFC Omaha, they've become the class of our league this year. We've got a massive test in front of our hands tomorrow. We've never beaten Omaha.
Yep.
Here at Tormenta. We've drawn with them several times and lost that last draw in the last dying seconds when we were in Omaha. They're incredibly hard to play at home. They're tough to play on the road, but we like having a bigger field to play on them. So we think that gives us a little bit more speed advantage, but they just are winning, and they're clearly been the class of our league since they joined League One years ago. They've been right in the playoffs every year, in the finals, winning the Players' Shield along the way. So we're going to try to slow him down a little bit here tomorrow.
One more question for you, and it has to do with a particular individual there on your roster, Pablo Jara, who hit a milestone recently with a number of matches played there in the organization. When I mention Pablo as an individual, not the soccer guy,
I already have cold chills thinking about this. Keep going.
When I mention Pablo as an individual, and you've gotten the chance to see him grow off the field as much as on, when I mention Pablo, what comes to mind as a part of the fabric there at Tormenta?
I think Pablo Jara is the finest individual I've ever met in my entire life. I've been to almost 50 different countries. I've been close to lots of people. I have a lovely wife, 2 sons, parents, siblings I'm very fond of. I think all of us have a difficult time holding the candle to Pablo Jara. That's how strong I feel about him. There's a work rate, there's a kindness, there's a professionalism that I'm inspired to try and match. I can't get there because it is a work rate and a steadfastness in terms of personality and consistency, just fun to be around on top of all this. He and Logan, his fiance, get married the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I promise you, Tormenta will be fully in-house at that time. Those two met at Wingate when they were both in college, and so the ceremony is going to be close to all of that. I think of nothing but celebration. I think of nothing but pride. I think of nothing about just how lucky did I get to be a part of Pablo's life. The fact that he's also playing incredibly well down our stretch brings me great joy. Back-to-back clean sheets. We hadn't had one in 5 months. That's how much we'd been struggling as a team. But his presence is meaningful. And if Tormenta makes the playoffs and makes a big run and we get another star, I promise you the MVP of this season is Pablo Jara.
Pack the house tomorrow night. It is Union Omaha, 7:30 at Tormenta Stadium there. It is the regular season home finale. Tormenta, Union Omaha, trying to determine playoff seedings, positions, all that kind of stuff. Massively important match down there in the borough. Darin, as always, thanks for hanging out with us here and breaking everything down, especially when it comes to USL League One. And you have golden ticket status, and you can crash at any time.
I love golden ticket status. This is my favorite thing to do on Friday mornings. Let's keep going.
All right. Be safe, my friend. Be good.
All right. Cheers.
All right. It's Darin van Tassell and DVT. He's got a big matchup for Tormenta coming up against Union Omaha. As Union Omaha right now, they're in that gaggle at 1-2-3. And South Georgia Tormenta, we mentioned coming in from lane 8. They've won 3 in a row. And they are 2 points out of a playoff spot right now. The way things are, 41 points for Tormenta. Forward Madison, same number of matches, 43 points for Tormenta. It is this home match, and then they hit the road next time out. Last week of the regular season is on the 14th. They are in Charlotte to wrap up the regular season, but the home finale tomorrow, 7:30 at Tormenta Stadium, as they try to get into the playoffs once again. USL League One chase after another star just to keep up with things. Forward Madison, by the way, they have to go to, I think they've got to go to Northern Colorado to take on Hailstorm. And then they host Omaha. So it's a tougher route for Forward Madison, but South Georgia Tormenta has to better Forward Madison to try to get in that 6th seed. Charlotte and Greenville 2 points apart, 4 and 5. 3 points separate 1, 2, and 3 right now, USL League One, as we get into the final weeks of the regular season. So very, very cool stuff. Great as always to catch up with DVT. And it's right there. See, right there. In the studio, in the Office HD, it is right there. It's always right there, right on point, the Tormenta scarf. So great to catch up with them. Great to catch up with Darin and get the lowdown on everything going on in USL League One. All right. Time to go through the news of the morning. Probably the biggest thing this morning is Paul Pogba. And it looks like after a reexamination of the B sample, came back positive again. So it looks like he's facing a 4-year ban at the moment. So we'll see what happens. Possibly, probably, maybe, but this will get bogged down in courts and lawyers, and there will be billable hours and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll see what happens there. That news broke this morning. From our friends at the Telegraph, this is another element that was interesting out of the Europa League yesterday. Legia Warsaw players were arrested on the team bus by Dutch riot police. Legia Warsaw players arrested on the team bus by Dutch riot police. The Poland Prime Minister is ordering urgent diplomatic action after Radovan Pankov and Josue Pesquera were detained for mishandling after the tie against AZ Alkmaar. So Mateusz Morawiecki announced government intervention over the ongoing detention of Pankov and Pesquera by Dutch police after the pair were removed from the team bus following an altercation with security. Morawiecki, I've instructed the Polish Foreign Ministry to take urgent diplomatic action to verify the events of the night. Polish players and fans must be treated in accordance with the law. There is no consent to breaking it. According to reports, police refused to let the team bus leave the stadium after Thursday's match until Josue and Pankov were detained. Legia president Dariusz Mioduski claimed he was hit while trying to mediate. Dutch police confirmed a 28-year-old man from Serbia, 33-year-old from Portugal, arrested on charge of mishandling, whatever that is. The Polish side, who branded events after the game scandalous, announced Mioduski would hold a press conference at the club's stadium later today. Riot police were deployed before kickoff at Thursday's match when a group of Legia fans stormed an entrance gate. Police had earlier declared the area around Alkmaar Station and the stadium a safety risk. AZ fined €80,000, basically 69,000 pounds by UEFA this summer for the incident when their fans attacked an area with West Ham players and family and friends. You remember that in the Conference League final? And you had the one guy from West Ham who looked like he was about 3.5 spins, took his shirt off, and he was fighting the Ultras all by himself as they were coming up the stairs. That was what was going on at AZ Alkmaar. So keep an eye on that with what's going on internationally. Hour number 2, set for all of your thoughts going into the weekend. Obviously, we'll talk about Atlanta United and Columbus Crew coming into town. Don't forget, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon on the roof, weather permitting, at Reverb by Hard Rock. It is our final regular season pregame kickoff, match day live from the rooftop at Reverb by Hard Rock. It'll be Jason and Nick from 3 until 4 talking about Atlanta, probably talking a little bit about VAR, talking about officials, talking about Columbus, talking about Philly, talking about Major League Soccer. 3 to 4 on the roof, weather permitting, Reverb by Hard Rock. So be there before you head down the hill and across the street to go start your tailgating. So do that. Start at Reverb at 3 to 4, 4 o'clock, go across the street, go on down to the supporters tailgate and start your day that way. Starting a little later. And thanks to our friends at Reverb by Hard Rock for hanging out with us and letting us come and crash their premises all season long. Very, very cool. Very, very cool stuff. Yes, David? Pogba is the one who had issues with blackmail with his entourage. That is true. Absolutely true. Don't know. Yeah, and his brother, right. So, so that's what you're staring at, David. Interesting situation with that. But go and you might get your tab taken care of. You might also get a seat upgrade. So put your name in the hat. Go show up. Be on the rooftop at Reverb by Hard Rock. 3 o'clock tomorrow. Jason and Nick, Match Day Live here. SDH and our friends at Reverb by Hard Rock. So basically whatever's on the table in hour number 2, we'll talk about officials. We'll lay out what's going on with who's going to be what where. And we'll go over fouls and things like that. We'll look at averages. We'll look at road games. We'll do trends like we always do in hour number 2. And, Knicks, David David is one of those that is one of the ones he will bring in the black helicopters into the discussion. This is not anything new, and I'm not saying that to disparage. I'm just saying that David brings information like this in, brings it in as a part of the discussion. And since it is 9:30, it is that time where we get to talk to our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring, which means I have to go find the fancy opening because it's part of the deal. And our guest this week, he's got a big old cup of something, getting ready to talk to us for the next half hour about mentoring and soccer and all points in between. So here's the fancy intro. I actually found it. Greg Garza hanging out with us with our friends at Beyond Goals. So what was in the cup, sir? Was that your morning cup of coffee?
This is I guess I make like 2 cups in here, right? Yeah, I guess it'd be like a grande, I guess. I don't know. This is my second grande of the day.
Okay.
My first one was at 5 a.m. this morning.
So, all right. So this is your second grande. So this is technically cups 3 and 4 for normal folks.
Yeah, I think I've already completed my day. I'm already at 12,000 steps.
What?
At 9:30.
What?
I know.
Are you serious?
Yep.
How did you get in 12,000 steps in the last 4 hours?
I don't know. I have some mentees that, like I say, they like to get up early and do some training, whether it's working out or on the field. So, that's kudos to them, but it also helps me be in shape.
So when you mentor at an ungodly early hour, is it legitimately, how are you doing this? No,
this is nothing to do with our mentorship. These are just mentees who know that I'm here in Atlanta.
Okay.
They are also here in Atlanta, and they just they say, hey, will you work out with me if you can give me some workout sessions? I always say, yeah, sure. It's going to be at 5:30 in the morning because you got to go to school right after. So, that's a big kudos to them to have that determination and kind of that self-discipline that goes behind it. I saw this quote the other day last week, and I've already used it a lot, but it's people who are interested in the smallest of details will always be below the people who are obsessed with the smallest of details. And I don't know if anybody has started to watch like Beckham on Netflix.
Some of us have. I have not. Okay. I think Nick has, and I think Jarrett has started.
It is like, I think, I don't see myself at all like Beckham because that guy's got everything, right? But in the OCD of perfectionism and the smallest of details, like he's cleaning up. It was a funny one that I watched last night. I think it was in maybe still the first episode or the second episode. It was like everybody goes to sleep and he's the last one cleaning up, making sure everything's extremely tidy for the next day. He doesn't like to wake up and have everything around, or a pot or a pan or some grease, or he cleans the inside of candle vases. Yeah. He doesn't like to smoke. He'll clip the wick. Just little things like that. And I feel like that's just way over the top for me, but I am very similar in regards to I like everything clean, wake up, make my bed, just creating good habits, right? Creating good habits, because it does a huge difference, I think, in the lifestyle that I live now off the field.
Well, but I would think at the same time, though, how you conduct yourself even when no one is watching is just as important as how you conduct yourself when everyone's watching.
I tell every kid the most important time to train is when nobody is watching. When you have no one to tell you this is what you need to do, when you have just that inner drive and inner motivation to go out and get better. And so when kids ask me to do things like that, I'll take them up for their word, and I'll hold them accountable, because they're now setting that high level of bar of expectation for themselves, which is great.
When it comes to, age groups and things like that, is that something that is becoming more of a universality where it doesn't matter if they're 12, 14, 16, 18, early 20s, college age? Are younger athletes setting themselves to that higher example across age groups, or are you finding that as they get older, they're getting there, or are they starting younger when they have these kinds of habits these days?
There's very few kids, I think, that have that mentality, right? I think Joe Burrow has said it before, and I always say it as well. The kids who are posting the extra stuff on Instagram, juggling and hitting the ball against the wall, they're posting it for Instagram. They're not really doing that. They're not really doing all that work in the dark. The kids that are waking up at 5:30 and doing things on their own, they're not showing anybody. They're not trying to show off the extra work that they're putting in. They're just putting in that extra work. I think Kobe Bryant's quote, right? Work in the dark to see the light.
Yeah.
But it's like I have maybe one 12, 13-year-old kid, and he's the one that is like absolute gets up the earliest. And it was funny because I train at his house, and in his backyard he has a field. And this week we were supposed to start at 5:30, and it was the first time. He's 12 years old. This is insane to me. 12 years old, and it was the first time that I think he forgot to set his alarm. So I'm in the back of the house, just waiting. Parents are still asleep. And mom comes out with her flashlight just to make sure it was me. I'm just sitting there in absolute darkness, waiting for him, and I can't get a hold of him. He won't answer my text. And finally I go and wake him up, and he was out, and we still trained. But gosh, it's crazy to me to see a kid that age have that determination. And I always tell him, right? It's like, dude, whatever you do in life, I can guarantee you will be successful. If it is soccer that you get to choose for a really long time, you are obsessed with the little details. But anything that you do, whatever this guy becomes, if he becomes a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, he'll be successful.
When it comes to you and your own path and trying to find out guidance as a mentor and what you're learning as a mentor, whom have you gravitated toward to get your baseline when it comes to advice and guidance and approach? Who are some of the folks? Because I've noticed that even this morning, there are a lot of quotes attached to athletes that you hang your hat to because it follows a certain path and a certain ideal. When you search for advice and when you search for guidance or pathways when it comes to mentoring, who do you search for, and who do you listen to?
There's so much out there to learn, right? I think social media can be used in the best ways possible. Like my Explore or all that kind of stuff on Beyond Goals, or even my personal, is just, it's all motivational quotes. It's all people speaking about the longevity of success. It's all the consistency, creating good habits. And it gives examples of what these people did. And I think for me, that was a question that was asked 3 days ago. I had to speak. I spoke with Soccer in the Streets and their team as adults, and just spoke about the integrity of that consistency and the integrity of building a connection between mentor and players. And that was a question that was brought up. It was, who do I look as my mentor? Who do I find as my mentor? Still being a mentor. And my answer was that I learn through the kids. I feel like the kids teach us so much. And that's where I think I get a lot of the ideas from, the ideology of understanding how to be a better mentor, because I am trying to make that unique connection with every single kid possible, to understand how they think, how they carry themselves, what are their flaws, What can we continue to get better? How honest can they be, right? And that for me is vital. It's vital for me to be the best mentor I can be. Is establishing that connection with each and every young kid. And that's that. I would say I am the mentor. They are my mentees, but in turn, I'm also their mentee in some sort of way, learning through them as well.
Did that light click on? That idea click early for you in being a mentor, where it's like, hey, I'm actually learning from them as I'm hoping that I am able to give them the opportunity to learn. But did that two-way street occur to you early on?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think you look at the tendencies, right? You look at certain things that are very, common denominators throughout a lot of the sessions and throughout a lot of the conversations that we have. I think that although, like I always say, every kid thinks of themselves so differently. And every kid's path is going to be so much different, but there are a lot of similarities in regards to each and every path every one of those kids are taking. Whether it's the kids that are dealing with injury, right? There's a lot of similarities into what they are thinking, right? Am I going to come back and be the same player? Am I going to have the confidence? Am I going to have the self-belief? And do I feel just like giving up? And I think that's where I'm able to learn with how they think, use my own personal experiences, but also continue to do that research in regards to finding maybe quotes or finding things that they can live by and kind of help them get through those situations. But I love, right? These are just examples of when the fire is already there, right? The fire is already burning down the house. But I love what Parkey says is that, the most valuable time to use us as mentors and just to have us as mentors is before that fire starts, is before you have to go through those challenges or before that obstacle or that hurdle is in front of you, because you're now given the lessons and the teachings that will help you when those challenges and when those obstacles occur. We all know they're going to occur at some point in time. And that's probably the hardest conversation that I have sometimes with parents on a discovery call or on a call is like, my kid doesn't need this. My kid is absolutely confident.
Wow.
My kid is killing it. My kid has this. He has this. He's going to be this. He's going to do that. He's already done this. He's already done that. And, you don't say it, but in the back of my mind, you're just thinking, well, just wait. Just wait, because there's going to be some massive and major challenges that kid's going to go through. And then what if it's too late? What if it's too late that you didn't have that person there explaining to them, hey, this is most likely going to happen if you go down this path. And sometimes that's the case, right? We always think, I think it's very important for us to think positively, but I mean, I think even for myself, always prepare for worst case scenario. Think positively, prepare for worst case scenario.
Yeah, pretty much in television, I always think of things from a producer standpoint. Go from 100% wrong and work your way forward. Halftime here of the Friday Free Kick. Greg Garza and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. And as Greg enjoys his second grande of the day, Nick Alifi is now in to join us for the second half of the Friday Free Kick. Nick, awesome. What is on your mind with Greg Garza?
Well, I was just sitting back and listening to the conversation about, what you guys were talking about with as far as injuries and confidence and everything else. I think that's something that people often overlook when it comes to, to injuries and things of that sort, is not only do you have to heal physically, but also heal mentally as well, and with kids, it can happen so quickly and immediately it's like, well, all right, the confidence goes away. The confidence takes a dip. The confidence takes a hit. We see it on the Netflix show, the documentary with David Beckham, right? How the confidence, even you could have a supremely confident player, those whether it's external or internal, the confidence takes a hit. Greg, how do you guys address the confidence dips? So when that parent, like you said, says, no, everything's fine, my kid's great, we know that that's not a permanent state of being, right? So how do you guys handle dips in confidence, or how do you prepare kids for that dip in confidence, whether it's from an injury or whether things just, they kind of hit a rough patch, they kind of go cold in their touch? How do you guys prepare kids for that and prepare parents for that as well?
Yeah, I think my easiest answer, that's a great question. I would say my easiest answer is just to help them create good habits. Help them create good habits and try and find a form of consistency within those habits. Because I feel like when you are a very task-oriented person, and when you are able to feel that sense of accomplishment, then it allows you to kind of, I always say the line of, celebrate your small victories to prepare yourself for the bigger challenges ahead. And I think that's a great way to kind of prepare them to understand what their small victories are. I use personal experiences as the proof of it. And I think, if I were to look at my surgeries, or if I were to look at my injuries, right, it's like my hip reconstruction. I had, 3 surgeries in 2 different rounds within a span of 1 month. And then after that, I was, practically bedridden for, 3 to 4 weeks. And then after that, it was essentially in a wheelchair, right, driving around the grocery store in the little electric wheelchairs, getting things. And then after that, it was getting into crutches and still not able to really walk, and just kind of being hunched over. And then after that, it was essentially, learning how to walk again in a pool. And it's like, that was going through my mind, learning how to walk again, right? Learning how to walk correctly. In the back of my mind, of course, there's that self-doubt. There's that dip of confidence, thinking, holy crap, I don't know if I'm ever going to play the game again, if I'm essentially learning the basics of just, rotating my leg, pushing me forward. But I think I had a lot of great people that were there, whether it was PTs or fitness coaches or coaches guiding me along the way, helping me create those good habits of every single day, and allowing me to understand those small victories. And the small victory was I took a step further the next day in the pool, or I was able to lift my leg a little bit higher. And it was those small measurement of details were massive for a confidence buildup. And so I look at another surgery, which is my shoulder reconstruction, right? It was, I remember after the 4th, 5th time that I dislocated it here in Atlanta was the time I finally had to get surgery in 2018. And I missed a couple months of that season. But, it was, I remember the first day of PT with the good old Mario Cruz at Atlanta United. And it was like, literally, I think he lifted my hand just like this, and he was like, all right, you're done for the day. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, that's all you got today. That was our measurement for the day. And I was like, oh, well, we didn't do anything. I feel like my arm just lifted literally a millimeter. And he said, well, tomorrow we'll do a little bit more. And it was just this constant grind of understanding, creating those good habits of showing up every day and creating those small, detailed habits to continue to push forward, to continue to grind forward. And I think that in turn creates that confidence. That in turn creates that consistent mindset to think that, okay, if I'm able to accomplish those tasks at hand, it's going to give me more confidence to build off that.
How much doubt / insecurity about your message and your path have you had as a mentor? I mean, do you ever sit there and have second thoughts about a particular message with a particular athlete on a particular day? Or is it something that you just file to the side, plow through, understand what happened, and just pick it up the next day? Like that PT session where you go to a certain point and then it's like, okay, we're done for tomorrow. Then you do a little more, do a little more, do a little more. Have you had any doubts when you've become a mentor?
Most definitely. Yeah. Every kid retains information differently. There's been times where I think I've finished the session and I've thought, holy shit, I think I just scared the kid. And excuse my language, but it's almost one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope this kid wants to speak to me again, because now I might have just scared him, putting so much responsibility and accountability on his shoulders. And even although I thought, okay, this is a 16, 17-year-old kid, maybe he's not ready for that. Because we're like I always say, we all got different things going on. We all have different ways of thinking. So I think those are lessons that are also learned, that the next time I speak to that kid, okay, I have to tone down maybe the way I speak. And that's another thing that I said that was massive within a few days ago with Soccer in the Streets as well. Us as teachers and us as mentors and us as, motivators and kind of uplifters, we have to understand each and every individual and what we can get the best out of every single one of them. The best coaches I had in my whole entire career were guys that they had a certain philosophy around the style of play that they wanted to bring, but they understood each and every individual and those assets that could be brought every single day from that each and every individual. Let's take into accountability Frank de Boer, right? Coming into Atlanta. Mm-hmm. There was no way Frank de Boer wanted to change his philosophy any way whatsoever to find any sort of connection with each and every player. It was his way. It was going to be his way or the highway, right? And that's what I think was probably detrimental, right, to the success within that team. Because there was no connection made between coach and player, not players, but player. And I think that's something as a mentor I've come to learn as well, is that when you are able to make that connection with a kid, and you're able to make that bond and connection with the kid, and they earn your trust, you earn their trust and you earn their respect. Kids are resilient, man. They'll run through a brick wall for you. But that's kind of the major lesson that I think I've learned throughout as well.
Nick, go for it.
Yeah, I think that's something that gets really overlooked. When you talk about building habits and focusing on details. One of the best coaches I think I ever had was my former Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor named Jacare, who would watch class and watch all of these people get really frustrated because they were trying to go 100 miles an hour after coming back from injury or illness, or, maybe they failed a belt promotion test. And he stopped class one time. He said, I want everybody here to stop focusing on proving yourself. No more proving, only improving. And we focus on the details. And I remember being so annoyed that, okay, I'm having to worry about the position of my thumb. And he would sit there and go, no, that Tom, and this like heavy Brazilian accent, right? But day to day, the improvement that he talked about was there. And it was like eating vegetables. It was like doing that thing you don't want to do. But I swear to God, the results were there. If all we had to do was focus on the details and that step-by-step improvement. And that's one thing I love about what you guys are doing, is that it is more of just like, we're gonna do this sort of incremental building. We're not coming in to do a tear down rebuild of your kid. We're not coming down to do a tear down rebuild of, their psyche or anything like that. You're not a drill instructor. You're here to help, work and just focus on details. I think that's so important. And that's something that gets overlooked so often today, because we're looking for like instant results, not even microwave results anymore, just instant results. Turn it on, flip a switch. I think it's great that you guys are focusing on those details.
No, thanks, man. Yeah. By the way, do you know what jacare means?
Or alligator. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, good for you, man.
Yeah, he was like what, 65, 70?
What a name to have, man. Jacare, man. I wouldn't want to be around that guy, man. He'd chop my head off.
Yeah, he was a tough guy, man. Really thin, like 65 something year old guy, and he could wipe the floor with anybody. So we knew very quickly, no, he's not the one.
That's funny, man.
When, that we got a handful of minutes left, and Atlanta in the midweek went to Philly and fell. Look, I'm just going to say it. The center ref was suboptimal. And there were things that should have been called that were not. We talked about it pretty much all day Thursday. Let me take what happened to Atlanta in Philly and turn it a little bit. How do you, as an athlete, compartmentalize what happened and channel what happened into the next match down the line? And how difficult is that, especially with the importance of the match coming up this weekend? How do you turn negatives, and I guess how do you tell mentees, how do you turn negatives into positives, and how do you turn a negative into fuel going forward?
Yeah, most definitely, especially with the timeline that they only have a couple of days to get prepared for tomorrow. And there's another top table team, and a team we've always had some trouble with as well, which is Columbus. I think, you have to, in those moments, you have to focus on what you can control. You got to focus on what you can control. There's no way you can control the ref. I mean, let's look at, I had one of my conversations with one of the boys this morning, who's a Liverpool fan, was what if Liverpool doesn't make the Champions League this year by 2 points, right? But if you think about that, if and that's what I told him. I said, as a Liverpool player, if you think about that, it's going to kill you the rest of your season. So how can you focus on turning that page as quickly as possible, and now turn that motivation towards what you can control, and how can you control your destiny of the next game? Now, can AU kind of control their own destiny of getting a home spot? They really can't anymore. Although all top level table teams are playing each other, it looks like. But you have to really kind of keep your fingers crossed that other things happen. But like I said, you just got to really focus on that next task at hand, and erase it. Look at the time frame between our Toronto game, the last game in Toronto, with 3-4 days later having to play New York on a baseball field.
Yeah,
3 days later, right? And that just goes to show that focus when you are playing at that elite level, and when Neymar said it in an interview a long time ago, and he said his favorite place to play was, especially as a kid, he said he grew up in the best environment playing in Santos, because in Brazil those guys' season is unbelievable, because they're playing the Brazilian Cup, they're playing the Copa Libertadores, they're playing the Sudamericana, they're playing the league all at once. Those guys play like every 2 to 3 days at some point in the season. And he was like, some games were games that he wanted to always forget. But as a kid, having a learning curve moment, he's like, I was given the opportunity to kind of then prove myself 2 days later. And that's a great idea, right? A great idea for him to have that mindset and think, okay, did I achieve the things that I wanted to achieve that last game? No, but look, I have a game right in front of me to now show it again.
All right, what's going on at Beyond Goals?
Same old, man. Continue to help out the communities out there here in Atlanta. We're super excited about everything that's coming together, and trying to plan for even bigger and greater things within not only creating new partnerships, but also within the city of Atlanta. So hopefully be working very close with the actual city, and sitting down with whether it be the mayor, whether it be the chief of staff of the city of Atlanta, to kind of prepare for the mecca of soccer within the next few years.
No doubt about it, as are we. Greg, thanks to you and to Parky for hanging out with us every Friday at 9:30, breaking everything down, and we will catch up with you next time, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Take care, man. Have a good day.
All right, that's Greg Garza.
Obrigado.
He is working cups 3 and 4 of coffee. And Nick,
That's my speed too. I like that.
Well, I'm going to have to probably speed read something before we get into our normal behavior.
Well, before you speed read, I got a complaint, John.
Oh, you do?
I got a complaint. Yeah. So my son is 14, and he came downstairs He doesn't have any socks on. Okay. And look, I'm telling you, the teenage foot is like highly toxic.
Yes, it is.
And John, I need to know who I can go to for help because there's something really seriously stanky happening in here.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about from an outcast point of view. So who can I call to get help with that?
And this is where we do the speed reading, my friend. Thank you for doing that. It's our friends at Eliminize Service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on the Face Space, on the Twitch, and on the 280-character app for odor-free, clean, fresh air. So you can get rid of all that stank on you. You can be a stank on somebody else. Eliminize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers, kind of the environment. We like that. Very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach for that masking agent, whether it's above you or below you, there's a reason it's called a masking agent. When you spray it in the air, you're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the stank like our friends at Eliminize Service do. Proven scientific formula to destroy odor down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. Any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go. It's the website, eliminize.com, and this is where I grab my pen after the .com, go /Atlanta. So they know what part of the world you are asking them to help you with your problems. Full homework, eliminize.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize Service, and here's where the train wreck's going to start. And I wish I had a crossfader, but I don't. And so we're going to have to get rid of one and start the other and figure out our lovely volume levels and stuff like that. So here we go. During our interview with Greg Garza, Tommy Scoops lets us know Adrian Heath out at Minnesota United and technical director Mark Watson. Sources with knowledge of the decision told our friends at The Athletic. Sources spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized publicly to discuss the dismissals. Minnesota United has not put out any kind of official release because I would know. Did not reply to an immediate request for comment. Heath's the only head coach Minnesota United has had since the club's inaugural MLS season in 2017. Watson was an assistant on Heath's inaugural staff and in 2017 before being promoted to a technical director in 2019. 81, 91, and 51. Fourth longest tenured head coach in Major League Soccer, led Minnesota to the playoffs each of the last 4 years. Minnesota lost 5-1 to LAFC on Wednesday. 2 games left in the regular season. 3 points below the playoff line in the West. Mathematically alive. Before that, 5.5 years at Orlando City, including the first season and a half that they were in MLS. Watson was an assistant on Heath's staff in Orlando as well. Adrian Heath out. OWT, Nick, out in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, it was about time. I mean, okay, let's go ahead and look at this right here. I don't wish anyone unemployment, right? Especially unexpected unemployment, because I've been there. It stinks. It's demoralizing. It can, fundamentally alter the arc of your life. But at the same time, I can be objective enough to look at the situation and say that Minnesota squandered their first few years in the league. Whenever you come in to MLS, you are essentially handed a cheat code of money to be as competitive as possible right out the gate. Only a few teams have really taken advantage of that. And those teams, Atlanta, LAFC, it looks like St. Louis is on that track, really come in and say, okay, we are jumping out of the gate with intent. Miami tried it and then, with a bunch of monopoly money under the table. But Minnesota, from day one, said, we're going to do things differently. We're not going to be Atlanta. And it was hard for them to watch Atlanta get all this buzz and all this pub because of who they were signing. But at the same time, Minnesota wasn't it looked like they were going to run out the gate with a USL lineup. I mean, the roster decisions that were made,
Scandinavian variant to start.
Well, number one, you have to convince people to go to Minnesota, right? And I don't care what anyone says. Minnesota, especially Minneapolis, is beautiful, beautiful. Winter takes getting used to, but it is beautiful up there. On the surface, it's not easy to sell. What I'll say is this: Minnesota didn't do themselves any favors. It seems like they're finally trying to course correct now. And it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in as a long-term manager. I want to see how their player profile changes, but you have to do something to make yourselves relevant. And if it were me, and I'm looking at the league right now, I would try to see if there's a way to get the Wilfs out of Orlando and get them to Minnesota and see about, because having that, the Wilfs money is different than the current Minnesota owner money. And I think that I just think it would be a better situation for the Loons long term, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But it's way overdue in my opinion.
Here's that 2017 roster, and this is just the majority of the names. Bobby Shuttleworth in net. Defenders that got playing time. 3 of them had NASL experience with Minnesota United. Kevin Venegas, Brent Coleman, Justin Davis. Jerome Thiessen started, played 30 matches. Francisco Calvo started 25. Mark Birch came from Colorado. Remember Vadim Demidov, MVP Vadim Demidov, who would actually give you negative numbers in fantasy in the 3 matches that he played. Michael Boxall played 10 matches. Midfield, Ibsen, Miguel Ibarra, Johan Venegas, Ethan Finley, Colin Martin, Kevin Molino, Sam Cronin, Colin Warner, Sam Nicholson. Forwards, your number 1 draft pick, Abu Dunladi, Ismaila Jome, Christian Ramirez, and Bashkim Kadri. That's the lineup Minnesota came out with in the 2017 season. 9th in the conference, 19th overall. C-Ram was your top goal scorer with 14 goals. Average home attendance at TCF, 20,538. Highest home attendance, obviously, on opening day, 35,043. That's what Minnesota United did in that first season. 8 coaches have now been sacked in Major League Soccer this year, a new track record.
It's worrying, I'll say, simply because who are you going to bring in? Mm-hmm. That always has to be people yell all the time, fire this coach, fire this coach, fire this coach. That's great. But there is a track record of teams that fire their manager that was, maybe I'm not going to say mid, but a mid manager or a somewhat successful manager, and then turn to absolute horse poop overnight in the process. And then you also run the risk of falling into the hire fire cycle, which no one wins on the hire fire cycle. When you start getting on that hamster wheel, you're not getting off of it. And I need to know who these clubs are talking about bringing in. And I know that in Atlanta, there have been people who say, okay, get rid of Gonzo, whatever, I don't care who you bring in, just bring us that. I'm sorry. The minute you say, I don't care who you bring in, my ears just shut off because that's not a plan. That's raw emotion. And if you were to say, hey, look, back the Brinks truck up and, go get the former manager of River Plate, who's, now out there looking for gigs, go out and get some pie in the sky name, go try to get Eric Ten Hag, out of, he's about to get fired from Man U anyway. I mean, okay, even if it's something that crazy, I'm open to hearing it, but just understand that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an improvement. So a team like Minnesota has to be just unbelievably careful going forward. I don't know. I wouldn't make any hire. You better have a great portfolio lined up right now. The minute you pull the trigger on getting rid of your manager, start looking now. The interim manager, in my opinion, needs to ride this whole thing out. It's the last home game, right? So, I mean, it's not technically that long when you think about it, but you really have to get this right. And if you're Portland, if you're any of these other these teams that either are riding with an interim manager or are set to hire a new guy, you better get it right, because you are going to set your team back 2-3 years with one wrong hire, much less two. So,
I mean, New England, it was looked at with Gio Savarese and Neil Lennon, and I almost did a spit take when I saw Neil Lennon as a name wanting to be brought over for Major League Soccer. Chicago is, you got to figure that out. NYCFC, Nick Cushing, I'm fairly certain that he is going to be on the line looking for work. DC has an interesting situation, and read into this whatever the hell you want. Wayne Rooney was supposed to do the press conference this morning, and he is now not going to. So whatever that means. Red Bulls, Charlotte, is Christian Latanzio a part of this discussion as well?
They have to be.
You're looking at, in the Western Conference, you're looking at somebody once again to replace Savarese in Portland. Austin, Josh Wolf, if they don't make the playoffs, right now they're 3 points out with 2 matches to go. Peter Vermes has earned the right, and we've talked about Peter Vermes before, and I know that I think it was a D. Graham who brought up, or was it Abby who brought up Peter Vermes? Abby who brought up Peter Vermes. I think that Peter has earned the right to call his own shot. Vanny in Los Angeles with LAG is another one that is currently still a number one that is probably on the block. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3 more in the West, and 1, 2 more at least in the East. So you're looking at 13 coaching changes. God, I feel like the Premier League. 13 coaching changes out of a possible 29 that we would anticipate by the end of this season and the end of this cycle in Major League Soccer.
Well, look, there's some managers rather, who they need to stay in MLS. I know I read a report that said that clubs overseas are looking at Gio Savarese. I think that Gio needs to stay in MLS. I think that Austin might be a good fit for him. I think that NYC needs to go with a big name. I think that, Gallardo. I think Gallardo would be somebody who they need to go for. You're not getting Pep. You're not getting Pep right now, because Pep's obviously going to stay within the city system. Mm-hmm. So he'll, I'm sure, work his way to New York at some point. But I think Gallardo is the person who New York needs to be talking to. They have the marquee name. They have the money. I think that would be a great hire for them. Portland, they've got stuff to figure out. I completely disagree about the Sporting Kansas City situation. I don't think that there's a reason to. You stagnated. It's not just having somebody hang around. He's earned the right to figure out his own exit strategy based on the success he's had. No, because unlike the other teams, Sporting Kansas City has not just reached the stagnation point, they have just bathed in it for a while. We are past the point of allowing a graceful exit there. If any club needs to be making a wholesale change in the manager position, then that's the one I think is the most deserving. LAG, the Galaxy are in a position right now where they're trying to figure out who they are. They are shook. LAFC is who the Galaxy used to be. And LAFC has taken all the thunder. They have taken all the glitz, all the glamour from that team up in Carson. And now you have aging contracts, aging players. They don't really seem to fit together. There's been massive turmoil at the top of the organization. There's been turmoil at the coaching position. And where do you go from here? You can get a big name, if anything.
But does a big name want to go to LAG now?
Well, I think in MLS Juve, I think that is a phenomenal shout, Ricky. I really do. I think it's a wonderful shout. If I am the Galaxy, I'm sending words over to the Eternal City. I'm sending word out to Roma, and I'm gauging Jose Mourinho, who has been under fire at Roma. When he was at Chelsea and they came to play here in the U.S., he said over and over again how much he loved being in Los Angeles, how much he loved, because that's where Chelsea's base was. They loved being in Los Angeles, loved the weather, loved all of it. Jose Mourinho to MLS would be a coup. And even in the stage of his career, because I think he would have something to offer in MLS for at least 2 years. And I think that's really what the Galaxy need. They need the nitrous injection. They don't need that slow, steady build. They need the nitrous injection. But I don't know where they go if they can't get a name like Jose Mourinho. Are you trying to reach out to like Lopetegui? Are you trying to reach out to somebody who's going to generate buzz? Because you have to have a buzz name. If you're the Galaxy, and you have to get names. And I don't know. They're in a weird situation. Austin to me is a little more cut and dry. You make the call to Gio Savarese and try to see what interest there is. But if you're Austin, you have to have a manager who is capable of fixing things quickly, because you're still within that win window of a new team. But you have to be very careful with that next hire. Unlike Sporting Kansas City, I think unlike NYCFC, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen if you're with the Red Bulls, or, they're going to go and they're going to tab some like the water boy from Salzburg to come in and be the manager. And they're going to say, okay, you're the manager now of this team in Jersey. Have fun. But as far as some of these other guys go, it's going to be tough. And yes, D. Graham, Jose did turn down oil money, but the issue with Jose Mourinho in Saudi Arabia is that he doesn't see the glamour side of going to Saudi Arabia. Like, he doesn't see the glamour in it. Like, there's money, stupid money for sure, but Jose requires glamour, and LA would give him the opportunity to be, in his mind, a star. So not only are you getting paid, but you're going to get the star treatment as well. He would get late night TV show appearances.
Absolutely.
He would be central. He'd be like a central focus for the media in general out there. He would have eyeballs that he craves. He would get only the money in Saudi Arabia. He would not get the opportunity to have to get the eyeballs, to get the glamour, to get the prestige of being in, like, nobody sits there and says, I'm going to move to a prestige city. I'm moving to Riyadh. Like, I mean, they say,
this writes itself. The promo, you get a rag top. You get like a 57 T-Bird rag top, close-ups of it from various angles, vanity license plate, driving down Sunset. And then there's a dude wearing sunglasses, and, you get all of the close-ups with the hands on the steering wheel and everything. And then it pulls out, and it's Jose wearing shades driving down Sunset Boulevard. Hello, Los Angeles. I'm here.
Oh no, even better. You play it like Chips, right? So the California Highway Patrol pulls over the car and goes up and says, "Give me one reason why we shouldn't give you a ticket." And he pulls the sunglasses down on his nose, looks dead into the camera, breaks fourth wall, and says, "Because I'm the special one," and whoosh, drives off. That's the closer right there.
We just wrote the LAG
We just
campaign.
wrote it. We just wrote the campaign just like that.
It took us like 20 seconds to bring Jose Mourinho to Los Angeles.
It's art.
Here's your update to the names from the Athletic.
No, but like people like, look at what Jose's done. Jose's been in Manchester, which is a historic city in footballing terms, right? He's been in London, Madrid. He's not going to Riyadh. He wants to go to a glamour city. And a glamour city would be New York or Los Angeles in his mind. New York or Los Angeles. And I think he prefers the weather at that stage of the career in Los Angeles. And it's enough of a project for him where he'd be like,
Yeah.
But they need so much help that it would be a tough haul. But I think that's, if you're LA, if you're the Galaxy, that's what you have to do. You have to go after the bigger names because people demand more because of not only your historic success, but where the zip code you occupy. So
Kevsey says they should see if Zlatan wants to manage. Zlatan has said publicly recently that he would kill two players on the pitch during the game, and then when the game was over, he'd go into the locker room and kill the other 8.
Yeah, Milan's going to make him part of their executive leadership team. Zlatan has no interest at all in coaching. So he's going to occupy the Maldini role because that's what Milan is missing now for a lot of their recruits. You had Maldini show up at your house. And player after player after player of the Elliott regime have said, I had no interest in going to Milan until Maldini showed up at my door. Or I went to Milanello and I'm sitting across from Paolo Maldini and suddenly I'm realizing, I'm coming to Milan. I think that's what they want Zlatan to be. Anytime they have a prospective player that they bring in, you're sitting across from Zlatan.
You got to win the living room, and when you win the living room, you bring Zlatan in there.
Yep,
I think you're winning the living room.
I think so. I mean, if you're trying to recruit someone to go to Auburn, right, and you bring in Bo Jackson comes in, sits down across from you, and says, "This is why you need to go to Auburn instead of Tuscaloosa." That's a hard sell, right? And it's Cruton, baby. Nobody knows that like we do in the Southeast. That's Cruton.
Absolutely. It is. Your rundown of who is being considered from our friends at The Athletic. Portland, Phil Neville, Domi Torrent, Ezra Hendrickson, Robin Frazier, keeping an eye on Miles Joseph, the current interim. The Revs, we mentioned, Gio Savarese and Neil Lennon. Fire, ongoing coaching search. It looks like Heinz and Peltzer, the sporting director and the technical director, they will be coming back after this season. And so you've got to figure out with Frank Klopas at the interim. That search is early stages. Colorado parted ways with Robin Frazier. And the interesting point from D. Graham is, well, why don't they use Arsenal's pipeline to bring somebody over?
Great call. Great call.
But that would mean that Stan Kroenke would have to actually give an ish and want to pick up the phone, call Mikel Arteta and go, hey, bruh, is there anybody on the staff that needs reps that you think could be good for the Premier League in a couple of seasons? Send them over. We'll name them the number 1 for the Rapids. But that would mean they'd have to pick up the phone to do that.
Right. And that's, I mean, that's an embarrassment of riches at your disposal that you're just not using. And you can call the technical director. You don't even have to call. Call whoever you want, but just say, look, is there a log jam from a managerial perspective in our pipeline where we have kind of a battle between two people, and let's pick one of them and send them to Colorado for some polishing, and just see how it goes. And at worst, He's a great manager for Colorado, does well, but is not quite Prem material. We keep him in our pipeline. There's still time to grow and develop. He knows our system, knows how to develop players, and he can identify players for us that we can use later on. Best case scenario, blows the doors off of MLS, from a managerial perspective, is a phenomenal talent scout. We bring him up as an assistant in the Prem. And whenever Arteta decides to walk away, we have somebody in alignment who's ready to go. Mm-hmm. I think one name for LAG that Dom Torrent idea, I think, is a great one for LAG, because you have Ricky Puig, right?
Yep.
Who would know exactly what Dom Torrent wants to do, and would be almost an additional manager on the field from a tactical perspective. Hey, look, nope, you do this, and this is when you do this. That would be a great shout. I think that's a name you got to consider, right?
The pipeline and the association is there. DC United, Wayne Rooney has an option year for 24. No conversations. They don't have a GM in DC right now.
What a train wreck.
Red Bulls, looks like Troy Lacine is under contract through the end of the year, and he is right now leader in the clubhouse to keep the gig. Contracts in Orlando City. Once again, out of contract, Oscar Pareja after this year, mutual contract options for folks in the front office for 24. So Orlando could be interesting as well. And interim Chris Little looks like he is in the consideration for the Colorado Rapids gig full time. So that's where we are with names and places and things and all of that stuff involving coaching carousel here on Friday. We got games, actually. Strangely enough, we actually have games this weekend to talk about. And we'll go through all the juice boxes, and what we will do with Nick is what we traditionally do is when we have Nico here, we'll play cliffhanger with all of our juice boxes. And if there's a game that after I mention the juice boxes and who's playing what and doing where, if Nick wants to talk about it in depth, we'll talk about it in depth. If he's just got to pick, he's got to pick. No worries, and we'll just keep going, because the game could be a dog, and there's no point in talking about a game that's a dog more than just dropping juice boxes and sitting there saying, watch it and avoid it. So here we go with our 7:30s on the schedule, and we will let you know if they are Apple TV, if they are on the free side, and if we are intrigued by the referee assignment, we may go in depth on that, considering what has happened in the midweek. Atlanta and crew, will save that one for last. CF Montreal, Portland Timbers. CF Montreal is a plus 117. Timbers are a plus 212. Your draw at Stade Saputo is a plus 263. Nick, what say you?
Draw.
Not a surprise, considering how the environment is in and of itself to get a win at Stade Saputo if you're on the road. But Montreal is kind of scuffling right now, so we'll see what happens with them. DC United, NYC. DC United's a plus 125. Your draw is a plus 256. And NYC is a plus 202.
I'm gonna say NYC on that one.
Fotis Bazakis is the man in the middle. Yunus Marakchi is your VAR. Lucas Zapala is the man in the middle for Montreal and the Portland Timbers. Also on the board at 7:30, Inter Miami. Well, and it'll be the and friends part of the discussion, going up against FC Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati, remember, they rotated in the midweek for their particular match. Now, FC Cincinnati at a plus 252, heading to Drive Pink. Your draw is a plus 283. And Inter Miami, in whatever form they're going to be in, are a minus 104. Leo Messi in full training today with the team. Good chance he plays tomorrow. Leo Campana is out for the Cincinnati game per Javi Morales. They hope to have him back for the final two matches, and it looks like Jordi Alba will not be available for at least another 12 days. Nick, what say you?
It's going to be, since he's going to boat race Inter Miami at the gate, because I don't think Messi starts. Messi comes in. I'm looking for a 3-2 Cincinnati win.
So you're
but
taking
both goals are going to come by Messi.
All right. So you're taking the plus 4.5 as your total and working from there.
Yes.
Rubiel Vasquez, the man in the middle, Sergi Boyko, is your fourth for that particular matchup. Also on the board at 7:30, Red Bulls in Toronto. Red Bulls massive favorite at a minus 357. Toronto, by the way, is a plus 880, and that's in U.S. funds. So
Lorenzo Insigne was getting heat because he was yelling at Toronto fans who were like just completely nuking him and his family.
Yeah.
In the booth. This is just a match made in the darkest, lowest rings of Dante's Inferno. Insigne just has to get out of there. And I don't know where he's going to go in Italy, but he has to get out of Toronto. That city has been just a nightmare for him and his family from the jump. People forget that Insigne's wife suffered a miscarriage that really just devastated their family.
Yep.
He was not really the same after that. So when you factor in the bad memory component and the lack of on-field success, there's really been nothing positive for Insigne there. That team just needs to be blown up, ripped to the studs. But I do wish that people would lay off Insigne. I'm not just saying that because he's, a fellow Paisan, but I'm just saying that that man's had a really rough go of it, and I just wish that people would lay off of him. But yeah, that team needs to be blown up. Red Bulls, take the points, take the over, take all of it, because that team's a wreck.
Jarrett, 7:30, Orlando City and the Revs. Orlando City is a minus 133. Your draws a plus 305, and the Revs are a plus 317. Alan Chapman is in the middle. Chris Penso is your fourth.
Orlando.
Alejandro Mariscal is your VAR.
Orlando is the team this year that you don't want to deal with. That is not going to win the Shield. Because every year we get this, man. We get the team that wins the Shield that, oh, man, they won the Shield. That's so fun. Let's see if they can capture a double. Nope. That doesn't happen very often at all.
No.
And every year there's the Shield team, and then next to them is some team that is really comfortable in a knife fight with you because they're totally okay if they get cut as long as they get to cut you too. And that's Orlando.
And we mentioned Oscar Pareja's out of contract at the end of this season.
I swear to God, if Orlando screws this up, I'm going to die laughing. Oscar Pareja has made the playoffs. I know, but they've made the playoffs every year he's been there. Please spit this bit in the most violent fashion known to mankind, Orlando.
Orlando, Nick?
Hire Adrian Heath again.
Yeah, it's going to be Orlando. I think that the team is going to. I know this is kind of wild and reckless to say, but I do think the team is going to play for Oscar, and I think that. It's Orlando, but I think also Orlando's going to find the most hilarious way to screw this up. So, the maximum soap opera would be for them to win against New England, make obviously they're in the playoffs,
right?
And then at the end of the season, be like mutually parting ways.
Yeah. Last one at 7:30, Jarrett. Philadelphia hosting Nashville. Philadelphia's a minus 135. Your draws a plus 284. Nashville on the road's a plus 348 in the composite.
Philadelphia. It's at home. Philadelphia kind of got their groove back in the first half of the Atlanta games, and they kind of took their foot off the accelerator. And we talk about it a lot. Like when you take your foot off the gas, it can be really hard to put your foot back on the gas. It can be really hard to regain that momentum. Philadelphia almost got punished for it. But that being said, Nashville's problems run deeper.
That they do. They run deeper, Jarrett.
Because it's not just Gary, man. It's like Sam Sturridge came out of the gates hopping, but it hasn't really continued, and they are still the most individually dependent team that you're going to watch.
Yeah.
With Hani Mukhtar, if Jose Martinez puts Hani Mukhtar in a camel clutch, Well, Nashville's probably not going to win. They're probably going to lose outright because they've had a couple draws where Hani didn't have a goal contribution, but I still don't think they have a win where Hani doesn't have a goal contribution.
Armando Villarreal is the man in the middle in Philly. Jair Marufo is your VAR.
The game is going to be an absolute dogfight just because, like, Philly wants to press you. Nashville doesn't really want the ball because you can't play on the counter if you're sitting with your foot on the ball all the time. We'll see what happens.
I think Nashville's winning. I think Nashville's beating Philly. Philly looked emotionally and physically exhausted at the end of the Atlanta game, and they were just. I saw happy Union players, but I also saw a lot of Union players who were breathing just very deep sighs of relief, and that to me just Philadelphia is the luckiest team in the world when it comes to getting these really knick-knack, stupid first goals. But I think Nashville is a little more solid defensively, obviously not going forward without Hani Mukhtar, but I just think that in this clash, it's going to be two really lucky, stupid teams. And out of those, the team that is probably less exhausted is going to win. I'm picking Nashville.
8:30s, Austin FC and LAFC. Nick, we discussed the future of Josh Wolf at a plus 177, draws a plus 266, and LAFC is a plus 136 at Q2.
Oh, man. I don't like this game. I really don't like this game at all. I really don't. There's nothing I like about it.
That's a healthy attitude, sir.
Yeah.
There's nothing to like about it. There's nothing to like.
Unless you were the most degenerate of degenerate gamblers, do not put your juice boxes on this game. I'm staying 10 feet away from it.
Okay. I do not blame him one bit, so I'm guessing that it's going to be mutually assured destruction at Q2, Jarrett, from Nick's perspective.
It's going to be mutually assured destruction, and here's the problem when, like, so I think it was this morning. This is the 8th firing.
Yeah.
This season.
And we're looking at probably 13 by the time we're done.
You know what happens when you're in the back of a line and the people ahead of you keep getting their heads taken off? You are no longer at the back of the line. You find yourself closer to the front of the line. Enter Josh Wolf.
Yes.
Because it hasn't been good. LAFC hasn't been great. LAFC also just got Adrian Heath fired. Can they go 2 for 2? I don't think so. Like, you're not going to get Josh. You're not going to get Josh Wolf fired next week. He dropped 4 goals on Austin, though, and I don't know. Maybe they're thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Chicago Fire and Charlotte 8:30. Fire coming off of the drubbing of Messi and friends without Messi at a plus 100. Draw, Nick, is a plus 277. Charlotte on the road at plus 241.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Fire. Picking the Fire on this one. I don't know. Charlotte to me just feels like I don't know.
Yeah, they beat Toronto in the midweek, but I don't know, man. Like, beating Toronto right now, just
good for you. You beat Toronto.
Boards don't hit back.
Great. You just completed a shuttle drill faster than Stephen Hawking. Great job.
Jesus.
Wow. Man. FC,
which is especially impressive considering he's dead.
Yeah. And you just barely beat the time, I guess, that he posted on the board. FC Dallas, who's got to figure out this Colorado match that the Winds took care of and postponed. They got to figure out when to post that one. Dallas and Jarrett San Jose Earthquakes. FCD at home's a minus 119. Draws a plus 274. And the Quakes, Nick, are a plus 309.
Give me FC Dallas.
Jarrett.
Give me the draw, and it's going to suck for Dallas because these two teams are 8 and 9 in the playoff rating out west. They are bringing up the end of the parade. But Dallas has a game in hand. If San Jose can even just keep serve, like, just don't lose a 6-point swing game against them, I think they'll be in decent shape, man. But the entire Look, the entire second half, like the bottom half of the playoffs in the West,
Stupid.
is just, yeah, man, stupid's a good word for it. It's very unhealthy for anyone.
5 points separating 4 through 9. Salt
Mhm.
Lake, RSL at 46 points, one more win than Vancouver. Houston's at 45. Those three are in. We just don't know where. Portland's at 43 points in 7th. San Jose's at 42 points in 8th. Dallas in 9th at 41 points. And Josh Wolf in Austin, 10 wins, 38 points. Identical record, only 2 goals ahead of Sporting Kansas City in goal difference. So having to go to the second tiebreaker right now with Austin and Sporting for 10 and 11. Minnesota, 1 win behind with 9. They're at 38 points, and they are in 12th. Houston and Colorado. Houston at Hell in a Shell is the minus 233. Your draws a plus 367, and the Rapids, who I don't know if they stayed in Texas or not and just decided to just wander down to Houston, a plus 613. Nick, do you care?
No.
Didn't think so. Jarrett.
Sorry, I was yawning because you were talking about the Colorado Rapids.
So then 8:30, Minnesota United is favored at home at a minus 119 against LAG at a plus 304 on your draw, and the Galaxy are a plus 277. Oh, Nick, why not?
There's a song on Sesame Street that really reflects this game. Sang by the warrior poet Oscar the Grouch. It says, "I love trash," and that's what this game is. It's the I Love Trash Bowl. I can't. I mean, who wins on this one, right? You get the new coach bump for Minnesota. I mean, the Galaxy are a disaster zone. So this is like Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island battling it out for who's the most radioactive. I don't even know who's going to win.
Jarrett.
Dead cat bounce for Minnesota.
That's a
maybe.
thud.
Well, I'm not going to go into why a dead cat bounce is a dead cat bounce. I'm not going to go into the physiology of that. But the Galaxy are fascinating because they have 35 points. The only reason they're not in the basement for the Western Conference is because Colorado is just an abomination.
Check.
But it's also funny to me because like it's just this whole thing we do in American sports where like if a team plays in a metropolis, we just always we're going to give them attention no matter what. Play in New York, Chicago, LA, whatever, you're going to get attention because I swear to God, the Galaxy get more attention than any 35-point team ever deserves in the history of mankind.
Because they're in Los Angeles.
Because they're in Los Angeles. And they got like a bunch of people on their team who did something 8 years ago.
Billy Sharp, 37 years old.
Great. 8 years ago was what?
29.
8 years ago was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And he was
you too can go see Doctor Strange.
Yes. Also on the board at 9:30, RSL and Sporting. RSL at home's a minus 110, draws a plus 287, and Nick, Sporting Kansas City on the road's a plus 267.
Oh God, I don't like the West. The West is no fun.
Well, if you go with RSL, then that goes to your theory about Peter Vermes having to make a decision.
Yeah, I guess I should stay consistent with that, huh? So yeah, I'll take the Real of Salt Lake, the half pour beer, and I'll take that over Sporting Kansas City's stagnant pond.
There you go, Jarrett.
My favorite thing would be if Sporting Kansas City, if after this season they don't make the playoffs, which they're most likely not going to make the playoffs.
Right.
If Vermes is like, I'm not going to coach anymore, but I'm going to stay on as technical director. And then we have just this like argument of power between ownership and Vermes and give me this just public fight over it. Because no one's going to want to like get in a fight with Vermes. He is a legend there. But give me like this awkward, like.
Just remember who the minority owner is now, though. Remember who the minority owner is there now. Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
You think Pat Mahomes is going to sit back and just let mediocrity infiltrate the investment? I don't think that's happening at all. I think Mahomes is going to be the one to make the move.
Mahomes has enough mediocrity. He went to Texas Tech.
What? Oh yeah. He's had enough mediocrity. Yes.
Yeah,
He's experienced winning now. He's like, no, we're not going back.
Yeah,
to that.
he was at Texas Tech, and then basically it was like, I don't know, man. Like it's. It was bad there. He put up some insane numbers there because it's Texas Tech. They didn't have a defense, so he's putting up like 600 yards a game and losing by 20 points.
Correct.
He's not going to want to deal with that. I would be very interested from a couple hundred miles away outside the blast radius of like a struggle of power and awkwardness in SKC of like basically like turn SKC into an episode of I Think You Should Leave.
Wow. Definitely going to keep an eye on that. Last one on the board out west. Seattle and Vancouver. Cascadia 1030. Seattle a minus 103. Draws a plus 273. Nick, Vancouver's a plus 256.
Give me Seattle.
Okay, you're going against your boy Vanni Sartini.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm a realist.
All right. And by the way, Texas Tech in 2014 went 4-8 under Cliff Kingsbury. They went 7-6 in 2015, and they lost in the Texas Bowl to LSU, Jarrett. And then in 2016,
yeah, I watched that game because I remember thinking like, this guy's really damn good. Because like that LSU team wasn't great, but they also weren't terrible. They were super fast on defense, and yeah, that game should have been a 30-point blowout, and he just kept dragging them through that game. And when he got drafted, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I knew he would become Pat Mahomes, but I remember like him getting drafted being like, he was really fun in that game. Maybe he could just be a really fun quarterback in the NFL, and maybe not even good fun, but like I'm going to tune in to watch him because he's going to try and throw it over a mountain.
Yes. And then they finished in his third season as a junior at 5-7. So that was your college career of Pat Mahomes. For your viewing habits, even though we know that most of you will be inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, free side of Apple TV, Atlanta, Columbus, DC, NYC, Montreal, Portland, and Red Bulls, Toronto, Orlando, New England, Houston, Colorado, Seattle, and Vancouver. All the rest are on season pass. Miami and Cincinnati. Philadelphia hosting Nashville, Austin, LAFC, Chicago, Charlotte, Dallas, San Jose, Minnesota hosting LAG, Salt Lake, and Kansas City. Crews of note, Fotis Bazakis is in the middle for DC and NYC. Eunice Marakchi is your VAR. Rubiel Vasquez in the middle for Inter Miami and FC Cincinnati. Sergei Boyko is your fourth. Lucas Zapala is the center ref for Montreal and Portland. Alex Chilowitz will be your fourth. Corey Rockwell and AR for Red Bulls in Toronto. Guido Gonzalez Jr. is your fourth. Daniel Radford, who is the AVAR in the midweek for Atlanta and Philly, is your VAR for Red Bulls in Toronto. Alan Chapman in the middle for Orlando City and the Revs. Chris Penso is your fourth. Alejandro Mariscal is your VAR. Philly and Nashville have Armando Villarreal in the middle. Jair Marufo is your VAR. John Freeman in the middle, no relation, for Austin FC and LAFC. Victor Rivas is your fourth. Natalie Simon in the middle, Chicago and Charlotte. Remy Touchon is your fourth. Jorge Gonzalez is your VAR. Philip Dujic is in the middle for Dallas and San Jose. Rosendo Mendoza is your fourth. Tori Penso in the middle for Houston and Colorado. Catherine Nesbitt is your A2. And Ekaterina Koroleva is your fourth. Very cool. Minnesota and the Galaxy, Timothy Ford in the middle. Izmir Pekmic is your fourth. Kevin Stott, your VAR. Ted Uncle for RSL and Sporting. I'm sorry. Joe Dickerson is your VAR. I'm really sorry. Seattle and Vancouver, Nima Sagafi is in the middle. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. So that leaves us one match to talk about. Atlanta and Columbus, 7:39 kick. Ismail Elfath in the middle. Chris Elliott and Ben Pilgrim are your ARs. Malik Badawi is your fourth. JC Rivero is your VAR. Nick Uranga is your AVAR. Nick, as we get into this match, what sticks out for you with Atlanta and Columbus?
7 goals and 2 draws. That's the difference between Columbus and Atlanta right now, from a record perspective. Atlanta's in a very dangerous position because it is very easy to let a team beat you twice, especially when they had significant help from the officials. And yeah, like I said, when people, I said it on Twitter, I'll say it again. The arm, the center official said that the arm was in a natural position. That's only natural if you're being like completely electrocuted, right? Like if you were being hit with 40,000 volts and 9,000 amps, that's when your arms are going to be in a natural position, like bending completely away from your body.
Or Jason Voorhees is chasing after you.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't know. There's something about this game that doesn't sit right with me. I'm picking Columbus as a 2-1 winner in this. People don't, I know everybody wants me to say, oh, Nick, how could you make that? Look, man, you want me to call it honestly as I see it or not? The way I see it is it's going to be a 2-1 Columbus win or a 3-2 Columbus win.
Jarrett.
To the point that, what separates these teams is 6 goals and 2 draws. We went over this with the Nashville game because it felt like before Atlanta, basically tried to snap Nashville out of existence. It felt like the conversation around the teams was vastly different for 2 teams that are not separated by a lot. And same kind of thing here, man. Like, it feels like these teams are not as separated as much as it's talked about. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Columbus, in some of their wins this year, they did what they did to Atlanta in Columbus, Ohio. They've done it to a couple other teams. Like, they've done the thing where they just they get going and then they just basically turn a rail gun on you from about 8 feet away. However, they also have games like the Orlando game. It was a couple weeks ago where they blew a 3-1 lead or a 3-2 lead or whatever the hell it was. It's still an unfinished product. Wilfred Nancy's talked about that. He's tried to kind of temper expectations for this club, and I know they are a lot of people's darlings. I still think if I got to pick the quote unquote darling that's not a Shield winner, for me, it's still Orlando. But I think this is one where, and to Nick's point, you don't want to let Philadelphia beat you twice. I don't think Atlanta lets them beat them twice. And I think Atlanta is in the right mindset to get something out of this. And I think it's going to be an absolute pain in the ass of a game, like a 3-2. Either you are holding on by the broken remnants of your fingernails kind of thing. Because Columbus is very good. I think Atlanta will tighten this thing up, though, and in doing so, make decision day absolutely stupid for everyone involved. Because remember, Atlanta has to go to Cincinnati to face a Cincinnati team that doesn't really have anything to play for.
Yeah, they don't care. They're in the barn. They're 8 points clear with 2 to go.
They're not going to win. They're not going to set a points record. So they're just kind of they're in the barn. Feet are up. We'll see if they rotate. We'll see if they rest guys. Let's see how they approach it. Also, I do want to point out this is the second time in 3 years that Atlanta's had to end the season with Cincinnati, and that's absolute bullshit. And do better, schedule makers. I want to see different teams at the end of the season.
Yeah,
I don't want to keep seeing the same team at the end of the season. Give me some creativity, you lazy hacks. But I think Atlanta gets something out of this tomorrow because they're angry. But if there's anything we learned from that Miami game where Caleb Wiley was ready to fight one of the best midfielders of the era, is that they will all fight and they will have each other's back and they'll fight and I think they can fight in a controlled manner. As I say that, hopefully nothing gets out of hand. Hopefully, you don't get like a red card in the 10th minute that completely flips the game on its head, kind of thing. But
so if LGP makes an appearance, they have something.
You don't have to worry about him. He's at River. He's at River watching Boca make the Libertadores final.
Ooh. Sign Valentin Barco now. I don't care who you are.
I think you get a win out of this tomorrow. I completely understand where Nick is coming from, though, and it's very possible. If your brain is not in the right gear, Yeah, you could lose it like you did to Philly. Like if something weird let's say you get a repeat of the Miami game, where Campana scores one of the best goals we've seen in person on like a weird shot kind of cross thing that maybe goes off the crossbar and bounces out. Somebody makes a great finish, and then you're feeling like, well, that was against the run of play. Yeah, and then your head starts to hang. Yeah, absolutely, 100% could see it getting out of hand, and you lose to Philadelphia twice. I think if they will just keep their head above water, they will be okay in this game. We'll see, though.
Atlanta at home this year, 10-3-3. Columbus only won their fourth match away from home this season. They are 4-8-4. Columbus comes in 53 points. Atlanta 49, 15-9-8 versus 13-9-10. And that is where we are. Once again, reminder that Jason and Nick are going to yell about officials at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon from 3 to 4. Weather permitting, up on the roof and the rooftop at Reverb by Hard Rock. Be there. And there's a chance that you could get your bar tab taken care of, and you might get a seat upgrade. So get there early. Enjoy it. It's the last regular season appearance for Match Day Live, and we're doing it up top. So Nick and Jason will be there tomorrow, 3 o'clock, and you can vent your spleen and discuss things there. Broadcast plans for 92.9. It is 7 o'clock with the pregame on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. If you want to do rabbit ears, 92.9 The Game or your favorite mobile device. And Mike and Jason with the kick at 7:39. So a very, very cool day for us at SDH. And it's going to be a very, very cool day. And we want the place packed. We want the place loud because Atlanta United's got to keep pace with everybody above them if they are going to try to chase after the 5, the 4, or what have you when it comes to the postseason in Major League Soccer. Hutch is like, let's go VAR. Abby, high of 67 on Saturday. Bring a jacket.
Open the roof, man.
Oh, open the roof. That'd be pretty sweet.
67 degrees. Open the damn roof.
Yes, absolutely.
Like it's going to be an emotionally wrecking weekend too, because you have that game. I still think Georgia-Kentucky's going to be closer than other people do. I think Georgia wins, but I think Kentucky will make. Kentucky is incredibly unpleasant to play against, which is a compliment to Mike Stoops. But you have that. You have playoff baseball that night. I was going to say you have Falcons on Sunday, but just don't.
No,
you don't have to live that way.
No, you don't.
I made a deal with a shaman, so I have to live this way. You don't, so I don't recommend it.
No, absolutely not. Let's see. A couple of other news and notes before we go. Roof is scheduled to be open, weather permitting. And Nick is on his way out the door. So thanks to Nick for hanging out as much as he did. Jarrett Paul Pogba is reportedly tested positive for testosterone in his B sample, faces a possible 4-year ban. I think the word that Nick would use is washed.
Yeah. Which is weird, too, because he's not that old. It's just a weird career.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird career.
30.
Yeah.
He's 30 years old. And to the point that was made now, our number one also involved in a police investigation into allegations he was targeted by extortionists, including his brother Matthias, who had a nomadic career representing clubs in various countries, including Slovenia and Scotland. So he's catching it from a couple of different angles. So the B sample came back positive, and he's facing a 4-year ban. Other piece of news, if I can find it quickly, from Samuel Marsden from let's see. No, that wasn't Marsden. It was the other piece where apparently the Danish Football Federation is having an exodus of front office personnel over the notion that Russian teams are going to be allowed back into European competitions. And the head of the Danish Federation is like, nope, I'm out. And it might be more than just the one individual that might be on their way out the door if Russian squads are allowed back into European competition. So we'll keep an eye on that. Oh, I didn't get we were talking about coaching vacancies in Major League Soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that Neil Lennon's being considered for the Revs
it's not active anymore.
Okay.
Let's nip this in the bud. His name was mentioned. It sounds like those negotiations are not active. If Neil Lennon came here, I'm going to need a life alert. I'm going to need someone to drive me to the hospital because I might have a stroke. Yeah, man. Don't do that.
Just don't.
Just don't. It sounds like they're not. But it also sounds like when you look, and I some of this I think is the way the article is written.
Yeah, of course.
In the sense that MLS is in that mode right now where we're recycling coaches, which some of it's okay, some of it sucks. Like, because I'd love to see Gio get another shot. Took Portland to 2 cups. Maybe another club says, you know what, we're going to bring him in, and maybe a fresh start is needed. But that being said, you do get into guys like him. Wait for someone to bring up Caleb Porter, hire Caleb Porter.
Oh God!
But you do get dangerously close to like recycling the same coaches. And where do you? But at the same time, like, do you go grab somebody's assistant? Do you go grab somebody's number 2? Do you go grab a Gonzalo Pineda? Like Pineda was kind of the across the board pick of like, hey, if you're going to take an assistant, that's the guy you take.
Yeah, like that's right.
Yeah. Do you go grab somebody like Danny down in Louisville out of USL?
Danny Cruz, yeah.
Do you make these kind of moves? I don't know, but it is kind of like there is a bit of like a little letdown for me personally, where like we just recycle the same coaches. I'm like, I don't want to see musical chairs. I want to see new insane people come in.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's on accident. Like, look, we were not expecting to get Wilfred Nancy being this coach. It was supposed to be Thierry Henry in Montreal, and Thierry Henry like dipped out in a Mayflower truck in the 11th hour. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. The release from DC United was supposed to be Wayne Rooney on Zoom at noon. It is now changed to Pete Shuttleworth and defender Steve Birnbaum available at noon. And read into it whatever you want. Maybe Rooney just doesn't want to do it. But he is still linked to the Birmingham City gig with John Eustace's position under threat. And so the 3-letter paper overseas is saying or intimating that Rooney could have maybe just one more match to go in charge of DC United. So keep an eye on that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what to watch before we go. Liverpool, Newcastle monitoring Jared Bowen and the negotiations over a new deal. Manchester City plan to start talks with Erling Haaland over a new deal to hold off interest from Real Madrid. Manchester City competing with Barca to sign Xavi Simon from PSG next summer. Manchester United, Jadon Sancho wants to rejoin Borussia Dortmund in the January transfer window. Borussia Dortmund's like, we don't know about that. Moises Caicedo joined Chelsea instead of Liverpool because he'd already promised them his signature when he was at Brighton. Chelsea planning talks with Conor Gallagher as he heads toward the final 18 months of his deal. That's the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Andre Onana reluctant to take time away from Manchester United to play for Cameroon for African Cup of Nations. Prim and Proper coming out early this afternoon will get you set up for the weekend. There's a discussion about Andre Onana from our friends at the Football Show. West Ham keeping tabs on Emile Smith-Rowe. Kaoru Mitoma close to signing a new 5-year deal with Brighton despite being linked with several Premier League sides. As we always say, it is controlling the asset. It is not just locking him in for that period of time. You're controlling the asset. If that 5 years turns into 5, great. If it turns into interest after 1 or 2, you've still got the asset under your control. Newcastle open talks to extend Sean Longstaff's contract until 2028. That's from Nicolo Shira. Sheikh Jassim's group bidding for Manchester United will not increase their existing offer to £5 billion, despite the threat posed by a new deal being put forward by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Everton on the verge, and I think this was signed this morning. Jared Branthwaite, a new 4-year deal with Everton over Manchester United. Chelsea have told Trevor Chalobah free to find a new club in January. Bayern Munich, Inter Milan is interested. Liverpool have made Fluminense's midfielder Andre Trindade a prime target. And Manchester United and Spurs are considering recruiting Atletico Madrid transfer expert Andrea Berta, but face competition from PSG. What to watch and where to watch it today. Once again, reminder, our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You help out us, you help them out as well, and you get hooked on For the Fans, CDO, Tay Say, BN Sports, all over the place. Megan Rapinoe plays her final regular season home game for OL Reign tonight against Washington. ACC Network, 7:30, BN and BN in Espanol. You can watch that on Fanatis. Ligue 1 at 3. OL Reign in Washington is at 8 on CBS. CBS Sports Network. Women's Super League, Manchester United Arsenal at 2:30. Doubleheader in the Canadian Premier League on FS2 as they get close to the playoffs. ESPN Deportes, La Liga, Athletic Club, and Almeria is at 3. At 11, which is now going on, and at 2, Fox Deportes has a doubleheader for a league I could give 2 issues about. Gold TV, that's another part of Fanatis Portuguese League at 3:15 with Boa Vista. Maybe they'll pay a bill. Ecuador Primera is at 8, involving Universidad Católica. ACC Extra's got 4 matches at 7. Semifinals in MLS Next Pro, Revs 2, Red Bulls 2. That's at 7 o'clock on Season Pass. B1G's got women's and men's soccer all afternoon and early evening. On the Plus today, Bundesliga at 2:20, Birmingham City, West Brom at 3, Athletic Club Almeria at 3, League One, Knoxville and Richmond, 7:30, 4 on the men's side in college soccer, 8 on the women's side of college soccer, Caribbean Club Championship, Club Robin Hood, and Atletico Pantoja, 8 o'clock, Paramount Plus, 2 in Serie A, 12:30 and 2:45, 1 in the Argentine Primera, Rosario Central and Huracan at 7:30, 2 in the NWSL, Racing Louisville, Orlando, OL Reign, and Washington Spirit. That's your Friday. Once again, 3 o'clock, 3 to 4. Nick and Jason yell at officials on the rooftop at Reverb, our regular season finale there from 3 to 4. You might get your bar tab taken care of, and you might get a seat upgrade. So go and yell with Jason and Nick as we get ready for Columbus and Atlanta United. Jarrett, what else is on your mind before we go? Apparently nothing. Jarrett's out the door. He had to go. So he had stuff to do, which means we got stuff to do. So thanks to Nick. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to Greg Garza and our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Keep an eye out if you're going to the match on Saturday. Just keep an eye. Special guest. And thanks to Darin van Tassell and our friends at Tormenta. Big game for them tomorrow. Union Omaha visits. And they get ready to try to chase a spot in the playoffs in USL League One. Got to win to stay afloat, or at least get some help from folks who are playing Forward Madison, because Forward Madison is playing Northern Colorado. So if they can better Forward Madison's result, Forward Madison's got a tougher road for the next 2 games. And Tormenta has Charlotte on next Saturday, the last day of the regular season. So for everybody here, thanks for hanging out with us, and we are out the door. And we'll be back at it again on Monday. We will see you at Mercedes-Benz. We will see you up and running. We'll see you at Reverb. We'll see you all the different places. So since it is the end of the show and I'm the only one left, I get to be the one to say goodbye. So see you later. Goodbye. Play it safe. Mucho platial. And since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Prim and Proper up later today. Drew Dickinson comes back with the 3D. So we'll see you at the game on this weekend. We'll see you at the tailgate. We'll see you at Reverb. We'll see you Monday. Bye.